Hey guys, Sandra here. Thanks for stopping by my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful week. Today I want to do a quick review on an ARC advanced reader copy that I received from NetGalley for a book called Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. Hannah is the author's name. This is her debut novel. I think it's marketed as a YA fantasy. To me, it felt a little older than a YA fantasy. If you've read Sky and the Deep, then you're probably familiar with a little bit of what this novel feels like. I didn't particularly love Sky and the Deep. I thought the writing was really basic and kind of elementary, and I thought the plot and characters were a bit surface level. It didn't really feel like a built out world to me. I kind of had that in mind when I started reading Hall of Smoke, but I was really pleasantly surprised at what I found in reading Hall of Smoke. The book is essentially about a 18-year-old priestess named Hessa. She is a priestess of the goddess of war. She's an Ingi is the name for it. I believe the goddess's name is Ing. So she has been a priestess of that goddess since she was a little girl when her powers started manifesting. So essentially this world has different gods and goddesses, and they grant their priests and priestesses different powers depending on who the god is. For Hessa and the Ingi like her, they have the fire. With a scream they can turn people's bones to soup basically, or kind of liquefy their eyeballs and their skull. Reading this story reminded me of Skyrim, which I have spent an embarrassing amount of hours playing, probably between 225 to 250 hours. Skyrim has like epic battles and fight scenes, and I believe the power is called shouts in that game. The power of the Ingi priestesses reminded me of that. So the Ingi are these badass warrior women. They're only women in this particular village. They can do some incredible things with the power that's bestowed upon them. There were just so many moments I paused reading Hall of Smoke because different elements felt like Skyrim, and I love it when I'm reading something and it feels like a movie or a game that I've seen or played. I have that much more fun. To give you a sense of the length of this standalone fantasy novel, I believe it's in the neighborhood between 400 and 500 pages long, so it's not a long read. If you're interested in epic god drama and conflicts, this is going to be for you. It has a lot of priests and priestesses. It has a lot of traveling around to different villages. There's a big portion of the book where she hangs out in the high halls, which is, if you've played Witcher, and he kind of goes to this dreamlike world where all of the mythological kind of beings hang out and eat and drink. There was a scene that felt exactly like that. I wouldn't say that this book is especially predictable at all. There were definitely some surprises here and there that caught me off guard that I really wasn't anticipating, and I always enjoy that in a story. Essentially, the main plot of this story is 3 years before, so when the main character was 15, another priestess, the high priestess, had a vision that a traveler was going to come to their village, and Hessa needed to kill this traveler. There's no reason given why she needs to kill him. It's just the task, the quest that is given to her. So 3 years later, at 18, this traveler does come to her village, but she doesn't recognize him. She doesn't know it's that traveler from her vision, so she fails to kill him. And she is kind of banished to the mountains to seek forgiveness from the goddess and kind of atone for not killing him. The plot kicks off where, while she's up in the mountains praying to the goddess of war, trying to figure out her next steps because of her failed quest, her village is raided and everyone in it is massacred. So I won't go into too much about Hessa herself and her personal life. This book, it didn't really strike me as a YA fantasy like Sky and the Deep did. If you're looking for romance, this is not going to be the book for you. There really is not any romantic intrigue or love story at all. It's purely about Hessa and what she does to atone for the quest that she failed. This world, there's monsters and creatures, and there's different gods and goddesses that are at war with each other. There's old gods, new gods. They're all kind of vying for power to kind of capture the most believers, because it's the sheer number of followers that they have that kind of grants them even greater power. As the story goes along, Hessa is trying to figure out for herself whether she really had a choice to become a priestess in the first place, because she kind of just fell into it whenever she started manifesting these things as a child. She starts figuring out things about her goddess and other gods and just the other characters that she meets. It's kind of about that. So this book is a standalone fantasy, which can be a breath of fresh air for some people who are kind of burnt out from long fantasy series. So it is a standalone fantasy novel set in a really interesting world. I love just the richness of the lore, and even H.M. Long's writing. It was very lyrical and visual in that sense. I feel like when I do book reviews, I always forget to read a small snippet or a couple snippets of the book just to give you a little flavor of what it kind of feels like when you're reading it, to get a better sense of the prose. I'm remembering this time. This is not really spoilery at all. I'm just reading the first couple sentences of chapter 1. The shrine in the meadow before me was little more than a weathered collection of beams and tiles and stark angles. Poppies were scattered around it, fluttering under the gathering skies, and wood was stacked beside the low stone altar. That's how the book starts, and then I'm just gonna fast forward and go through another snippet. I drifted downriver. Time refused to be measured, but I imagined passing under a great archway of stone. I saw fires atop an endless wall, low mountains wrapped in tatters of cloud, and a rocky shoreline where a creature too large for a bear watched me with quiet, intelligent eyes. So it kind of has that kind of solemn, suspenseful feeling reading the book that kind of sweeps you in. Even though it took me 25 to 33% of the book to really get hooked into it, I think because for me, I really need some kind of romantic interest to help get me bought into a story, and since this book doesn't have that, I think that's why it took me a little bit longer than normal to get immediately attached to the story. I thought this was a pretty solid debut novel. Even though it is marketed as a YA fantasy, it didn't feel that way to me. I would strongly encourage anyone, regardless of who you are, to give it a read, because I found it a fun ride, especially if you like to play video games like Skyrim. Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long, I gave it 4 stars, I believe, just because, like I said, it took me about 25% to 33% of reading the book for it to finally sink its teeth into me. But once it did, I was like just flipping through the pages trying to figure out what was going to happen. I think she plans on writing more standalone fantasy novels in this same world, which will be really interesting to me. I will definitely give her books a read in the future. I enjoyed poking around in this world and going along on the ride, so it was fun. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I always appreciate your support, and until next week, I will see you later. Bye!